probably the most used picture in golf instruction in the last year right here. So we all know, hopefully, flexion, extension, radial, and ulnar, because that's really what we're measuring. And as Jake Thurm talked about earlier, this is probably, if you can learn how to train the lead wrist, it's probably the easiest way to help your golfers, especially average golfers. Just the effects of wrist angle, just super basic, right? So when the left wrist radiates, what happens to the face? It opens a little bit, right? And we get extension. Ulnar creates what? A little down cock, a little flexion, right? Those two things are synonymous, and that's a very important point that I want to make. So when you start seeing the drills that I'm going to show you, it really helps to marry those two ideas together in order to change the club face, right? So pronation does what? Opens the face. Supination closes the face. So you put all this stuff together, and you've got a pretty good idea of sort of what the club's doing in relative to how the handle's moving, how we're twisting on this club, which is super important. Stronger grips, again, you're going to, when it measures on HackMotion, you're going to get more extension in the lead wrist at start. Weaker grips, you're going to get less, right? It's nothing but a starting point. But how are you going to orient that player at the top of the swing is very, very important, right? If we get a strong grip and we try to get him looking like DJ, what's going to happen? He's got an extremely shut face to manage, which could be difficult if he can't do what? Rotate. Okay? So all this stuff is really important. Weaker grips are going to tend to have a little bit more. I'll move them towards flexion, right? And I think somebody mentioned earlier is when HackMotion measures the top, a lot of times it might appear flat, and you'll still get some extension numbers, which is okay. It's fine. Most people are in extension at the top anyways. John Sinclair's got the largest tour database in the world, and he talks a lot about that. Mr. John Sinclair in the back, it's the motion or the movement, not the position. Okay? What direction is that lead wrist moving in is what you've really got to focus on. Close the face early so you don't have to close it late. David Orr in here, write that down. That is the main focus in this whole deal, right? Top players, good players, start to move towards flexion early in transition at P4.5. Poor players do what? They're pulling down, they're too steep, whatever. They're going into extension early, so they got to flip it at the bottom. They wonder why their impact looks like this. They're hitting miles to the right and high lofted shots. So that's a very important part. So here's what we're dealing with, right? Here's the chop sickles. So 37 degrees extended, and I'm going to show you who this is. And actually, the video and what I'm showing you here is not the actual swing. This is one he sent me from like a road game. But it's the only one I had, but you can kind of see. So this is why I don't teach lag the way we used to teach lag, right? What was probably the most well-used drill in America was this, the pump drill, right? Everybody's trying to do this. I used to try to get them to like touch their right shoulder. I mean, big mistake. Holy cow, was I wrong about that? So this is the guy going, he's coming in, he's moving towards, you can just kind of visualize this. He comes from the top and he's basically doing this. Thing is super steep. And then he is giving it the gas at the bottom because he's got to square it up somehow, right? Extension is useful to square. That's actually I think the highest rate of closure. Is that correct, John? If this type of release, bit in the middle. Okay, yeah. So it's that definitely helps some players, but can they control it? Heck no, right? So that's sort of what we don't want to see. And here he is at impact, which is not great. Now, I do have a preference to try to get the face relatively square to my lead forearm. Now, everybody doesn't play there, I understand, but again, we all sort of have preferences. His grip is a little stronger, right? So I get him up there relatively neutral-ish, and then he's pulling down really hard. Again, because this guy reads every single Golf Digest article, and he says, I need more lag. And why do I look like this at impact? Can't figure out why he's humping it and jumping. Okay, he's letting all this stuff out early, so he has to get up and get on his toes. Or like Jake said, he hit 5 inches behind it. and he does that occasionally. So here's a Corn Ferry Tour guy that I work with. Again, pretty neutral going through, moving towards flexion in early transition, down to impact, gets it to about 0, and then starts to lean it a little bit. Occasionally he can get it to minus, which is no problem. That's a pretty good face control looking graph right there, in my opinion. Pretty standard. Not a whole lot going on. And there he is at the top. Again, you know, kind of a 1.5, 2 knuckle grip. Face looks pretty square. And this guy can absolutely flush it. All right, so how do we train it? This is the cool stuff. So this may be something that you haven't heard. And again, a lot of this stuff I got from Calcs. And shout out to Tyler Farrell, another really smart guy in our industry. This is, we've got to go through this. Where's Seth at? Come on up here. All right, so again, metaphors are big in teaching, right? So if they ask me what that feels like, I'm a mover, okay? I'm in there moving them around. I'm grabbing them. Actually, let's just do it. Yeah, you just do it. So as you can go this way. There you go. Which is the best view? Go this way. There you go. Perfect. So go to the top, right? And and I'll grab them and I'll say, okay, let's just make a little motorcycle move. So it's just a little reverse motorcycle. And again, you've got to figure out with your students when they need to feel that, okay? Because by the time the brain kicks in to the body, this thing could be down here and we're in big trouble, right? So I want this thing happening very, very early in transition, okay? So that's one. So then we got the screwdriver. I got that from Joseph Mayo. It's another good analogy. You ever screwed a screwdriver? That isn't bad. But notice what's happening when he's moving that lead wrist into flexion. Right? What are we also getting? A little bit of owner, right? So we're getting owner deviation. And what's the sweet spot doing? It's kicking back behind the hand path. If you don't learn anything else today, teach your students how to do that, and you'll be a rock star. That's it. What do poor players do? They're going this way. Club face is wide open, super steep. They're tipping it out. And then they got to, why do I stand up? Why do I hump it, right? So as I'm coming down, I really want to feel like that's the deal. All right, so drills. I'll actually explain this one. You can stay up here. Another one that Sinclair likes. I started doing this a long time ago before I even knew what wrist conditions were. Is I want to make sure people understand how to release the club this way instead of so much this way. Okay, especially for newer players. First thing I do is teach them how the hands and arms move. So I love this, just one arm drills, where they're just basically just rotating. If you took a picture of that, guarantee, if you can get them to do this, what's the shaft going to do? It's going to lean forward. Okay? See what happens if you do this. You're going to get backwards, loft again. So again, this is a good way to start. Right arm only as well for your newer players and average players. But probably, again, shout out to Calcs here, the underload pattern, or what I call the reverse curl. I've seen Dana Dahlquist do this a lot as well. Go ahead and take it up to the top there, Seth. Okay, before we used to teach pump drill like this. Now I teach the pump drill to do this. Reverse curl, ulnar, flex, and get it back. Relax your hands. It's way too tight. Yeah. So we're basically getting them to throw the club back behind them. Okay. You want to get somebody swinging less to the left? That's the way you do it. Okay. We're not even talking about pivot here. Right? So we're just talking about getting this thing back behind the hand path, getting the face strong enough. So now they have a reason to do what? Rotate. Okay. Most of my players, I'm trying to get them so under, okay, so they have to actually use the body to neutralize it. That's sort of the progression that I like to go in. So hold on real quick there. I've got some pictures. 3/4 straight arm drill. Pretty simple. Again, when we're starting to work on impact stuff, we're starting to work on release, impact, and then follow through. That's the best way I've found. I use the goalpost drill. I'll just stick two posts out on the target line. Massive. You got to know where the ball is starting, right? Which is the face. and then you got to know how the ball's curving, which is the path, and then we got to know how to control low point, right? So we got contact. I'll play a game with my kids and say you get 3 points. Hit the ground in the right place, start the ball through the sticks, curve it whichever direction you're trying to curve it. Typically, we're trying to draw it with the kids that need some distance. So 3/4 straight arm drill is just basically controlling the shaft, right? If you do, give me a follow through. So what happens is they come through, they're trying to get this recock and radial too soon, right? So I want them to feel like they're controlling the shaft, which means we've got proper sequence of the torso, the arms, obviously the hips and the pelvis, and they can control it. If they can do that right there, I call it the litmus test, then they're going to hit it pretty good. You see this, you see this action, and you relax. Yeah, you get chicken wing, or you get this all this stuff flying by. You're going to see arms going first. Then you know there's some stuff that's messed up. Pretty easy. Yeah, so that's where I like to layer the drills. Okay? Thanks, Seth. I like to layer the drills. And I've got a couple. Here you go. Here's my son. Again. Let's see if we can get it to play. I call this snapshot. So basically, so you hear me telling them, if you can even get somewhere close to that, we're going to play pretty good. And this, again, I'll take beginners to tour players, and I'll say, all right, how do we look at impact? I want them to get an idea of what impact's going to look like, and I know it goes fast, through space. So I basically go here, we go torso left. What happens to my trail arm? It bends, right? Okay. What's going on with the casters and the throwers? This right arm's getting straight. So I like to see the right arm bend, a little bit of forward bend, a little bit of right side bend. I'm open, right? And you can go push ball drill from here. Have you ever done that one? Just have them push it out, so it forces them to actually use their body a little bit. And then I'll go from here and go little one, go, and then I'll layer it into 3/4 straight arm, and then we'll do full swing. Okay, off speed stuff. There's a lot of that as well. But let's see what I'm doing here. Look at this. So we've got, I thought I put the other one in there. Yeah, this is just a guy just showing kind of after the calibration and training positions. So again, I'll train motion with the biofeedback feature more than I train positions. So I'll have him at the top, and I'll put it on something like, say he's 25 at the top, and I want him to move towards flexion. I'll put it like 15 or 10. So he beep, here's it coming down this way. So I'll probably work more in that 4 to 4.5, 5 area. Again, into release and delivery, I think, more than anything else. But how'd I do there? Pretty decent timing. Highly recommend HackMotion. It's the simplest way to get your students feedback so quickly, but also you're going to learn a ton, again, by just sort of digging into the graphs, digging into the tiles, and putting it on yourself, right? What's the best way to test a training aid? Do it yourself, get that feel, and then transfer it to your students. So thanks for everybody for coming, and I appreciate it. Good.